Wait a minute, this happened last time you came in here.
Dadgummit. Oh.
All right, welcome into the Rowdy Studios with Reid Spencer of the Sporting News. Buzz Cutler over there, Bassmasters over here, playing a little game.
Reid, we've brought you here to play a game
Called Either Or. Yes.
Either or. So we're going to ask you different questions about different drivers, either or. For instance, who is more likely to win a championship this year, a Sprint Cup championship, Kyle Busch or Jimmy Johnson?
Well, having won it 5 times in a row, I think that's a no-brainer. Jimmy Johnson, more likely. Why? Because they've done it before, and even though they've got issues to sort out with the pit crew, I think Jimmy you have to give the nod to until he loses it. And the reason that I think Jimmy over Kyle at this point, because of the engine issues. And, you know, if it weren't for the fact that they've had to start from the rear with engine issues as an organization 8 times this year.
Amazing.
Then, you know, then I would give them more credence. But I think parts and pieces are really important in the chase. And, you know, I question the reliability of their stuff.
All right, well, let's move on. We got a lot of these to get through, all right? Who's more likely to make the chase, Tony Stewart or Dale Earnhardt Jr.?
Another no-brainer, Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart's done it before. He just had a second-place finish at New Hampshire. Ryan Newman, his teammate, won the race. And, you know, I just think Tony has the wherewithal to do it. Coming up are tracks that Tony thrives at. Indianapolis, Watkins Glen, places where he can establish a significant edge over Earnhart, who's not great at those tracks.
Yeah, Michigan's a good track for Tony.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., of course, has fallen 6 positions in the rankings in 6 races. Is this something? Is this a schneid? Is he on the slide?
Right, or is it a product of bad luck? I mean, we know, like, for example, 41st at Sonoma, that was just nothing he could do about that.
Absolutely right, and he was certainly running better than that at Sonoma, but if you look at his finishes over the last 5 races, best is 15th at New Hampshire this past weekend, and he really wasn't that strong at New Hampshire.
No. And that's a junior-style racetrack for sure.
Right,
well,
exactly.
Steve Letarte says it's not the driver, it's the cars.
And that could be, but that's a real
It's a pretty big factor anyway.
All right.
Number 3.
Let's move on to number 3. Who's in bigger trouble, Clint Bowyer or Greg Biffle?
At this point, I would say Clint Bowyer is in bigger trouble because RCR has been on the decline for the last 5 races. Clint's had bad finishes, some of which were inadvertent, like the wreck at Daytona, which he said you can't always avoid that.
Yep.
But they spent time in the shop this past week trying to sort out their issues and expected to be good at New Hampshire, and they really weren't. I mean, the best finish of an RCR car there was 16th. So, you know, that tells me that the equipment is not quite where they need it to be. And, you know, Biffle, on the other hand, I think the Roush stuff is still strong.
Yep.
I think he may get energized by the crew chief change. So I would say Bowyer's in more trouble right now.
And it seems like the RCR stuff to you, it seems like they're behind a little bit now. It's amazing how quickly this can change. You look at Kurt Busch earlier in this season.
Right.
Bowyer was running well. Kurt Busch was running poorly. And now the Penske stuff's gotten better, and the RCR stuff's definitely gotten worse.
Absolutely.
All right, last one. Who is more likely to be piloting the Home Depot car in 2012? Joey Logano or Carl Edwards?
You got a coin?
Really? You think it's 50-50? We finally got one that's 50-50 here.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, that's a tough call for a lot of reasons. I mean, Carl Edwards is being offered big money through a cooperative effort between Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota to move to Joe Gibbs Racing. On the other hand, Carl is a lifer with Ford. And I don't know whether Carl will be able to sit up there with a straight face and say, I love my Camry. So,
Prius, maybe the Prius.
If they pay him enough money, he can do it.
Here's my thing, though, Reid. It seems like this is the closest he's been to a championship since 2008, and if he announces a switch now, he's basically shooting his championship hopes in the foot, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to me, it goes down the drain.
But what choice does he have? This is this is the big contract year for him. I mean, this is the time. That's just the way it is, and he has to make the choice that he feels is best for himself and his family in the long term, right?
Well, and I think this started out more as a situation where Carl was trying to leverage his position at Roush with something from Toyota and Gibbs. I think what it's turned into is a very aggressive play by Toyota and Gibbs to land a driver of his magnitude. I think that if they do sign him, he may well be in the Home Depot car, but I think Gibbs will run 4 cars next year because Logano, I think, is going to be staying there and continuing to drive for Joe Gibbs Racing.
Does Edwards get Zipadelli under that scenario?
That's a good question, too. And you know, again, flip the coin on that one.
Yeah, Logano's an interesting case just because he started the year so poorly, and now he's sort of picked it up. I think maybe it's sort of like a false positive last year at the end of the year and a false negative at the beginning of this year.
Well, I think they came into this season probably a little overconfident.
Yep.
And thinking that they could sustain the performance that they had in the last 5 races of last year.
Right.
And fell flat on their faces. And now he's worked himself back into a position where if he can simply win a race, he might well make the chase. So, you know, same situation with David Reagan at Roush Fenway Racing. I mean, everybody's talked about Reagan, UPS, someone else is going to be in the seat of the 6 car next year. Well, if he makes the chase, that certainly may not be the case.
Right. It certainly helps your case as a driver. All right, Reid Spencer from the Sporting News. Thank you very much.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.